Welcome back to another episode of the Sad Dad Games podcast. You're watching another episode of Eric's Indie Corner. My name is Eric.
I'm Shan.
My name is Tucker.
And yep, I said it kind of weird.
You're never as funny as you think you are. It's just, if I have one moment to speak this entire episode, I'm going to try to make it funny. But I don't have a lot of material to work with.
Episodes. If it's a platformer, that's it. I got weird noises and a joke every now and again.
Yeah, I'm sure that you'll be very opportunistic about any wiener jokes that you might be able to.
Oh, of course.
Of course. You gotta
There's a wiener, I'm on
it.
Love to spit out a mouthful of wiener jokes.
Yeah. I just am so happy that now and forever there is a soundbite on the internet of Tucker saying, if there's a wiener, I'm on it. It's just, you put that on the internet.
It's going to come back to bite me at some point in my career.
Wieners don't bite.
We'd hire you, but you said if there's a wiener,
maybe yours doesn't.
You gotta be careful what we say. We'll get canceled. One of our 4 viewers will.
I don't think you can get canceled anymore. I think that culture is dying.
Is it over? We're done. We
canceled culture has been canceled.
Has been canceled.
It's being canceled. But it's not as bad as it was a couple of years ago, as far as I understand.
Good.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
they're still boycotting cancel culture. It's just, I don't think you can, for just like random things you say on the internet. I think that's not as bad as it used to be.
That's good, because we say random things on the internet. So
we will.
Well, anyways, to get back to it, this is an episode of Eric's Indie Corner. What do we do on Eric's Indie Corner? Eric picks an indie game that he loves and thinks is great, and then we talk about it. That's pretty much it. I love indie games. I love to play indie games. I love to talk about indie games. And so once a week, I pick out an indie game and we highlight that game and we talk about it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So today's game that we're talking about is called the Touryst. Touryst, but spelled with a Y, which is why I'm saying it weird. So the Touryst is an isometric puzzler game developed by Shin'en. And oops, I forgot to write down the release date. It came out sometime in 2017. My bad. Someone Google that for me while I'm talking about things. For a long time. Yeah. I think it was early-ish. Maybe it was a little later. It was early-ish in the Switch life. It might have been like 2018.
That would have been the first year. Okay.
Yeah. So someone Google that for me, because I'm looking at my little sheet here that I have.
Shan looks like he's on it.
Shan, let us know.
2019. That makes way more sense.
Okay. Yeah, 29, because Shin'en released another game in 2017, so that makes sense. Yeah, so other notable games from the studio, Shin'en has been making games for a long time.
Is this a Chinese studio, or what is this?
I don't know where they're based out of.
I doubt it is, but
big Nintendo developers for like a long time. They've always been kind of like on the cutting edge of pushing whatever hardware they're developing for to its limits. They did some really incredible graphical stuff for the Game Boy Advance, the 3DS, for the Switch, for the Wii U. They really pushed the limits on those systems. So yeah, they've done a bunch of games. They've released Fast Racing Neo, Fast RMX, Fast Fusion, all the Iridium games for the GBA. Nano Assault for 3DS, and then a game that I just found out about today that I'm going to buy called Punchwin. It's about a penguin and you punch things, and I don't know how I haven't already played that game. It sounds like exactly something I want to do.
This is a German independent video game developer that started in Munich, Germany in 1999, but the reason I was confused is because the name Shin'en, it has like an apostrophe, so Shin apostrophe N E-N. But it's a Japanese word and it means abyss. So even though they're German, they have
of them.
Yeah. They got some things going on. Made it very confusing. Sounded Asian, but I didn't know.
Yep.
Sorry, Tucker, what were you saying?
I was just saying, remember the failed board game / card game we created together? And
no,
we
I
had
don't
penguins?
remember.
How was there not a
We thought we were so clever and so smart and that we were going to make so much money.
We missed out on Punchwin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's right there.
That's all I had to contribute to that part.
All right. So as per usual, we're going to break this game down, talk about story, gameplay, and then visuals and sound, which are the only things that matter in a video game. Nothing else matters. So first, we're going to talk about the story. The story is you are a stranger visiting an island, and you start out on Touryst Island. You quickly meet another tourist there who tasks you with exploring and checking out the 4 ancient monuments across several different Irelands? Across several different islands. I can talk. And then getting the cores from each of those monuments and bringing them back to the Touryst on Touryst Island. So it's got an initial MacGuffin set up. Go get these 4 things on these 4 different islands and then meet me back here, kind of a thing. And I like this setup because this game is fairly free form and open. Basically, we'll talk about that a little bit in gameplay. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But the story is very interesting. It's not really heavy-handed. It's sort of in the background, but you meet a lot of different characters and you have lots of interesting conversations that are all kind of hinting at something bigger going on. And it has this extremely slight undertone of cosmic horror. It's never really in your face. It's very, very subtle, but it has this kind of slight, surreal, spooky vibe sometimes. And other times it's very light and playful and silly. So it's a good marriage of these two kind of vibes, I feel like. It's a very interesting game in that way. So, yeah, that's kind of it for the story without spoiling too much, which, definitely should play and experience the story for yourself. So on to gameplay. It's an isometric puzzler. It's a voxel-based game, which voxels are cubes. They're basically 3D pixels. So
like Minecraft
is like they're very large voxels is what Minecraft is. So this one, it's like a bunch of little cubes making up all of the characters, everything in the world, everything that you interact with is all voxels, which lends it this really adorable thing. So we'll get back to that a little bit when we're talking about the visual design. But it's a puzzler game where you visit these different islands and you go to these different monuments and complete puzzles and challenges inside of these monuments, but also out in the open areas, the explorable areas of these individual islands. So it's not a big open game. You travel in between the islands via a boat, and then once you're on that island, you're on that island. So there are these kind of small sandbox-ish areas where you can explore around, but there's a lot of like side quests and little missions and things to do here and there. Lots of little mini games that kind of mix up the gameplay style. Like sometimes you're flying a drone or surfing or like playing other smaller games in an arcade. And these are all things to do like throughout the world that help progress the main storyline. Like once you complete X number of activities, then you can do the next thing in the story. And so it has kind of a fun progression that way where you can engage with the content that you want to engage with and not have to deal with the rest of it if you don't want to, or you can do all of it because it's all pretty fun. So yeah. Let's see. So I like the gameplay style in this game because I feel like there's a good variety to it. You're always kind of doing something different. You're like one of the missions you have to like make the party really awesome. They're like having a big beach party and you're like, oh, I gotta, turn on the lights and pump up the music and plug this in and, and then another time you're surfing and then another time you're solving cosmic, puzzles inside of a dungeon. So it's got a good like variety and a good pace to it where you're always kind of doing something new and doing something different. So next we're moving on to visuals and sound. We hinted at this a little bit earlier, but the game is voxel based, which voxels, as we said before, are 3D pixels. They're like little cubes that make up everything in the world. And it's an incredibly charming visual style that makes everything immediately feel chunky and adorable and very fun. I don't know, thoughts about the visual style, guys?
It had me giggling uncontrollably. Just the way it reminds me of like if you took the way a Lego game, the movements there, but then threw a Minecraft skin on it and added a hint of adorableness.
Do they decimate the animation at all?
What do you mean by that?
Like Mario Wonder, how they decimated the animation so that it looked more like it, even though it was a 3D game, it looked like it was animating through frames.
Oh, No, not really in this one.
It's all okay.
It's all fairly fluid animation.
Because they also do that with the Lego movie, which is why I brought up, because Tucker was talking about Lego.
Yes, so the what Shan's referring to in like the Lego movie, when to make it look more like stop go animation, where things have a little bit of a snappier thing to it. They also do a little bit of that in like the Spider-Verse movies, where they'll lower the frame rate in some points to make the motions feel a little snappier and a little more like a hand-drawn aesthetic. But keyframe. So very effective visual choice for animation. They don't do that so much here. But it is all very bouncy and silly. Like one of the things
squash and stretch, or
there's a little bit of squash and stretch. Yeah, not tons.
That's
for the
charming.
most part they stick to the voxels, but the voxels will sometimes squash and stretch, particularly on character models. When they're running and jumping and things. And one of my favorite things is there's like this cube right on the front of the guy's head that's the same, like hits his hair. It's like his little hair coif, and when he runs, it will like bounce up and down in a very adorable and enjoyable way. And as an artist and an animator, there are some things that when I see an animation that just tickle me, and I love a good hair bounce in a running animation. It looks nice, and it adds this like nice jovial fun. I just love it. I can't get enough of it.
No, and like this is what really strikes me about this game is that they have a starting point, a foundation of an aesthetic, which is the voxel-based stuff, but they weren't afraid to pick and choose tools outside of the standards of that voxel-based rendering to create something entirely stylized that will make it charming forever, because they also introduce like tilt shift and that soft focus. They have dynamic light sources, and they have like material surfaces that diffuse the lighting. So the lighting is just absolutely gorgeous in this game. And the tilt shift like elevates these as like you're looking at a little diorama of this little toy land of sorts. And so just like all these little artistic tweaks on the original form. And it also has like high dynamic range. So you just get brilliant colors and contrast to everything that gives it incredible depth, especially for an isometric game where, that depth and contrast is kind of paramount to give it that aesthetic. So just like everything they do, it was so intentional, and it's so gorgeous to look at. And there's also like a lot of physics to like the interactions with the environment, and that is also another fantastic stylized choice to add to this thing that they've created that just feels like it's a little bit out of place for what they're doing, but it elevates it in a very charming way.
100% agree. Yeah, I the lighting in this game in particular is just really great. They do an excellent job of it creates moods perfectly. When you're in somewhere bright and vibrant and like beautiful sunset, it really sets the mood. Lighting is really excellent. And they when you're in like a dark, scary cavern, they do a good job of really limiting your field of view and containing your like limiting what you can see, like what's lit up and what's not. And so the lighting in this game is top notch. So calling that out is exactly right. I like the tilt shift thing as well with the depth of field effects, so that it makes everything feel small and toy like. It's visually a really fun game. I really, really like it. And as my visual fun fact, are you ready for this? This is, as far as I know, I think the only game on PS5 that is able to render in 8K. So
whoa.
I know.
So now they finally earned that moniker that they put on their case that says 8K that they took off in the second or so iteration.
It's like a whole thing for the PS5s at launch. They all had 8K on the box, and everyone was like, 8K? That's too. No way. 8 is twice as
double
many
the K.
That's double the K.
No,
it's 4 times because
but the point stands. It's like people don't understand it, so they think it's amazing. You cannot perceive the difference.
Imperceptible. 8K and 4K are the same. Yeah.
Especially if you're like a couch gamer, like that is just not going to make sense to you. And it's basically the same effect as just like quality anti-aliasing. And so you're like throwing just a shit ton at the CPU or in GPU to be able to render this nonsense, when in reality you could just put an anti-aliasing pass and post processing,
and
and
it does
just
the same thing.
be far more efficient.
Yeah. So I thought that was hilarious. That I think it's 8K 60 FPS too. So
That's very amazing.
They're and so listen, the guys at Shin'en, the folks who make these games are technical wizards. They, as I kind of touched on it earlier, that they're always kind of on the cutting edge. They're really good at pushing hardware to its limits. Even I played this game on Switch and it plays at a 1080p, a very crisp 1080p, no aliasing. It's very nice, and it's 60 frames per second. It's a beautiful game.
And it sounds like it's highly optimized and perfected. This article
no
I'm
load
looking at
times.
says,
It just
well, and like it says in this article from Eurogamer that it's like over 650,000 measured frames. The Touryst just dropped 3. It's locked 60, optimized, perfected, and that is just very impressive.
Well, and the other thing with all of that, it's an incredibly optimized game. It looks very sharp. It runs really well, and it's less than a gig. It's like this 3D game with like insane, beautiful light, and most of their games are like I've played a couple. They have another racing game on Switch called Fast RMX. That is a gorgeous game with really good lighting, really great visuals, really photorealistic stuff in some places, and 60 frames per second. And it's less than a gig. And I'm like, how are you doing this? Like, what do you like? I mean, the frames per second doesn't have anything to do with the file size, but yeah.
No, but like, do they not use a lot of textures? And so this is all just like cell shade or just like,
I don't know. Or they're able to compress files in a secret way that no one else is, but they're very good at getting their file sizes small, and their game performance is really, really good. So big fan of these guys. They also, if you have a Game Boy Advance, play a game called Iridion and Iridion 3D. Those are like on-rails shooters that they developed for the Game Boy Advance that are technical, like they are ridiculous. They're 3D, and I honest to goodness have no idea how they run on the game. It's like actual real, it looks like actual real 3D visuals, but how they must have done it is like drawn hundreds of different like framed options and have them like adjust in real time based on your ship's position. It's incredible. It looks like you're just playing like a 3D game but on a Game Boy. Very, very impressive. So technical wizards, these guys are kind of like, I'm a big fan of a lot of what they do. I've played several of their games and it's good stuff. So they're also releasing a new game that's coming out launch day for the Switch 2 called Fast Fusion, which is another one of they make a lot of games with the Fast moniker. They're like F-Zero style racing games. So probably going to pick that one up day one just to see what it's about. Because you're
just adding to your day one bill.
I'm just adding to my day one Switch budget is getting ridiculous, or my Switch 2 budget. Yeah,
is like you could just spread it out, right? Like these games won't be hard to find, and they will always be the same price. And you're like, I don't care. I just want to
it's just one
sodomize
big thing
myself
up front
the first day.
Nintendo says, "Here's a new console," and I say, "Here's all my money."
Exactly right.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Shin'en. They do lots of cool stuff. So. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add before we go on to the available platforms and the price and everything?
Well, I was curious, how much does physics play into the gameplay mechanics? Because it looks like, especially with water, they leaned into it. But does it play into the gameplay at all in interesting ways?
I'd say like a medium amount. There are like sometimes where you're like picking up things and throwing them, and that has physics to do with it. Some of the mini games have things to do with physics, like there's flying a drone and doing things with that are physics based. I wouldn't say that it goes like crazy with the physics stuff and leans into that super hard. It's definitely an element of the gameplay. But it's
so it's
not,
just just a stylized thing that they added to it.
It mostly is used for like a stylized way of presenting the world and the visual style, but it does play into gameplay a bit. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, the Touryst will take you between 8 to 8, maybe 10-ish hours, depending on your skill level and how much of the extra stuff that you do. It's a great time. It's available for Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and Windows, and is $19.99. So well worth the price. It's also been out for a while, so this one probably goes on sale fairly often. You could probably snag it for a deal, but you know what? If it's not on sale, buy it anyways. These guys do good stuff and they deserve money.
I agree.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you for listening to another episode of Eric's Indie Corner. Remember, every Monday to watch our regular series, every Thursday to come here for Eric's Indie Corner. You can find us here on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Instagram. They like to tease me a lot for plugging Instagram because I'm the only one that does anything on Instagram. I upload my daily data scores every single day, but check
I'm
that out
pretty
there
sure
as
our
well.
brand is shit on that platform, and it's unrecoverable.
Who knows? It's,
I don't know. The dadishness is.
people come for the dadish.
hot.
You got to come
Yeah.
for the dadish scores.
Come for the dadish.
I come for the
leave for the
sadish.
dadish.
Yeah, you come for the dadish and you stay for the sadish. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Sadish.
We will catch you next time. Bye.
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 Outro. Bleepy-doof, bleepity, bloopity, blow.